us on to resolution number 21, which is entitled Safe Access Zones for Asylum Seekers in Home Office Accommodation. And to move resolution 21, I call Dovidas Kouliasas from Govan Kingston branch, and he'll be followed seconding by Daniel Buckley. So welcome, Dovidas.
Hi again, Conference. So for months now, Erskine, our Erskine here in Scotland, has been something of a flashpoint of conflict. A group of far-right activists associated with the neo-Nazi group's Patriotic Alternative and Homeland Party has been harassing asylum seekers housed in the Mufu Glasgow River Hotel in the town. They stand outside the Home Office-provided temporary accommodation, shouting racist slogans and deliberately working to incite local hostility to these vulnerable refugees. As the Herald already reported this March, this group has sought to weaponize the housing of refugees in easily identifiable hotels, and they focus on this issue to a particular degree, disseminating locally specific leaflets, infiltrating local community councils, Facebook groups, attending residents' meetings, and, of course, organising protests outside this Home Office-provided accommodation. They fearmonger about a nebulous threat supposedly posed by those asylum seekers, while their own resources and social media are plastered in the lowest grade of garden variety anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and racism. Conference, I do not think I am saying anything controversial when I say that the SNP is a proudly anti-racist party. We are, in fact, the largest anti-racist party in Holyrood and in Westminster. Our party's history is marked by a consistent, long-standing commitment to an idea of a Scottish nation that is open, welcoming, and inclusive. I think I speak for all of us when I say those refugees in the Mufu Hotel are welcome here. This is their home. Right now, however, their literal home, the place they are staying in the town that hotel is not safe. While the local community, trade unionists, and anti-racist campaigners from across Scotland have turned out to oppose these disgusting attacks on their neighbours, it cannot be overemphasised that it is not normal or acceptable for someone to worry about being called slurs, told to leave the country, or even attacked outside their own house when they are just on the way to the supermarket or their church. That is not acceptable. We would never accept such personalized racist harassment outside a tenement, outside a city block, or any other dwelling that people live in. The Home Office provided that accommodation, but policing is a devolved matter. And it is Police Scotland that enforces the law. The Scottish Government has already confirmed that it endorses the principle of buffer zones around clinics providing abortion services, areas in which political protest would be limited in order to protect those accessing those services. What this motion proposes to do is to extend that principle to asylum accommodation across Scotland, something that may well become essential for public order in a situation where the number of hotels used as asylum accommodation is likely to continue to increase. Conference, I ask you, stand with our neighbours. Say it loud, say it clear. Refugees are welcome here.
Thank you very much, Dovidas. Our next speaker, seconding resolution 21, is Daniel Buckley from Paisley Tannahill branch, who will be followed by Erin Lux. So welcome to Daniel.
Good morning, Conference. I stand before you today as a committed anti-fascist and anti-racist activist. In Scotland, we often like to think that this is not a racist country. The reality is that racist rhetoric has filtered down and influenced sections of the Scottish population. Every Sunday for nearly 9 months now, myself and countless other anti-racist community activists have stood in solidarity with the refugees of the Muthu Glasgow River Hotel in Erskine in sunshine, sleet and rain. Together, we in Erskine and the surrounding communities have done our best to make these men and women feel welcome. We have donated clothing, reading and writing materials, we have provided food, we have played games and sports with them, we have danced and sang, and we have listened to their stories and their hopes for the future. One young man, only 21, who I have got to know, fled Iran with his wife after being shot by the police. He arrived in Erskine with a bullet still lodged in his groin. He's a footballer, and he hopes one day that he'll play for a Scottish club. Another man, again only 21, 22, fled Syria after watching his father die in front of him after a chemical weapons attack by the forces of Bashar al-Assad. We have also been providing art and drawing materials. One man from Afghanistan, the first thing he drew was a picture of his father being hanged by the Taliban. By contrast, the neo-Nazi patriotic alternative and the subsequent splinter group Homeland have provided nothing but hate and division. By preventing openly fascist groups and individuals from harassing, intimidating, and abusing these people, we show that this ideology, this cancer, is not and never will be welcome in Scotland. However, any future legislation that results from this motion must include exemptions for grassroots community groups and projects. The side that shouts about fake refugees, useless eaters, and sings white supremacist songs, including one sung by the US Capitol insurrectionists on January the 6th, is not equal to the side that plays football matches with the refugees. When hate and division is allowed to be used as an excuse for protest, something very badly has gone wrong. And when the police refuse to take action against coordinated Nazi salutes because, and I quote, the angle wasn't quite right, they embolden these racists and allow them to feel as if their harassment campaign is acceptable. The refugees in Erskine are not here to scrounge off the state or replace us. They are here through no fault of their own. They have left behind friends, family, their communities. For many of these people, staying in their home countries would have meant facing persecution, torture, and death. 2 weeks ago, I asked the Iranian footballer if he would ever want to return to Iran if it was safe. He replied that he and his wife had good and bad memories of Iran, but overall they considered the Iranian book of his life closed and that they were now starting a new Scottish book. These demonstrations in Erskine have lasted for 8.5 months, too long. By contrast, when the far-right Highland Division attempted a similar campaign in Elgin this summer, it was opposed by local residents and politicians of all parties. The Elgin protest was crushed in a matter of weeks. So, on behalf of the refugees and activists in Erskine and across Renfrewshire, I extend this open invitation to all of you here, be you an elected representative or just a plain old party member. Come down to the Muthu Glasgow River Hotel on Sunday from 11:30 a.m. and talk to the residents of the hotel, listen to their stories and stand in solidarity with our community. If we are truly committed to building a Scotland based on dignity, liberty and equality, then we must fight racism in all its forms and by whatever means possible. Conference, I invite you to prove to the world that Scotland is a welcoming and safe place for all who seek refuge from violence and war, regardless of where they come from. Please support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Our next speaker speaking for Resolution 21 is Erin Lux from Out for Independence, followed by Councillor Michelle Campbell. Just a wee reminder on timings, conference. If you are moving the resolution or moving a direct negative, you have 5 minutes. All other speeches, you have 3 minutes. And we will be flashing amber and then red lights at you. Keep an eye out because I don't want to cut you off. So, Erin.
Good morning, Conference. I'm thrilled to be here to support this important resolution. Maybe not so thrilled to follow Daniel. How do you follow that speech? He was amazing. So just before I get into why this resolution is so important, I want to talk a little bit about independence. I'm sure you're not going to object to that. I just want to talk about what we could do for our most vulnerable population with the powers of independence. So you can probably hear from my accent that I'm Canadian. In Canada, asylum seekers are allowed to work, and the time it takes for them to get work permits is measured in weeks, not years. Because of this, they're able to live and not just survive. They're able to join their communities and live with dignity, and with the powers of independence, we could do this. Because make no mistake, hotel accommodation of asylum seekers is an affront to human dignity, and this is a manufactured crisis intentionally crafted by the Tories through refusing to invest properly in the asylum system to make decisions in a reasonable time frame, or even allow asylum seekers to work and have some control over their own lives. It feels intentional that they crowd them into centralized locations and make them targets for harassment by the far right. They do all of this, and then they use the cost of hotel accommodation to attack the most vulnerable members of our society and the tiny amount of support that they receive. I'm proud to say that at National Council this year, we passed a resolution acknowledging that for some groups of asylum seekers, this hotel accommodation and shared accommodation can produce another level of trauma. I'm here from Out for Independence, so I'd be remiss not to mention that for LGBT asylum seekers in particular, being unable to control their own environment or have any privacy puts them at risk of homophobic and transphobic harassment, violence, and forced outing. And this is before we even get to the issue of harassment by crowds outside their hotels. Now, without independence, we can't grant asylum seekers the right to work, we can't get them out of hotels and into the community, but we can protect them from being targets of harassment by the far right. Just think about having fled unimaginable horrors, war, persecution, a government that would have you executed just for being who you are, making the incredibly difficult journey to what should be a place of safety, only to be met by angry crowds demanding you be sent away, leaving you terrified and trapped. This resolution doesn't ask for anyone's right to free speech to be curtailed. There is an inalienable right to protest, even for opinions we find beyond the pale. However, the place to protest is outside government offices whose policies you want to change, not outside the homes of vulnerable people simply seeking safety. Conference, please support this resolution and show us to be the open, welcome, inclusive country that we know ourselves to be.
Thank you very much, Erin. And our final speaker on Resolution 21, speaking for the resolution, is Councillor Michelle Campbell. Welcome to Michelle.
Thank you, Convener, and good morning, Conference. I am a councillor in Erskine and in Shannon, and every day I am aware, very aware of the issues, and I want to thank the speakers previously who attend day in, day out at the anti-racist efforts and inclusion. I am very aware of the work that has been done there. It's a really personal thing for me. I've spoke about it in council. I'm the only person of colour elected in Renfrewshire. My own family background is that my mum fled Idi Amin's dictatorship. So I know on a very personal level how that is feeling for some of these residents. Maybe not on a personal level for me directly, but I've seen it with my mum. I've heard the stories. And to this day, even though I will not mention her age because she will absolutely not forgive me for that, but I have just turned 40, so you know that will give you an indication. But it still affects her to this day. The cultural differences, English not being your first language, having to just upheave your life in a way that is, I mean, imagine everything that's familiar for you, just being ripped away. And then you're living in such fear that the best option for you to think, just to feel safety again, is for you to go somewhere else. And you get there and you're met with this wall of hostility. I mean, who on earth in their life deserves that? No one deserves to go through that. And I find it abhorrent. And the actions of patriarchal alternative is shambolic. and it's cowardice, and they will never, never have success in any political field, and I will not enable their voice further. When they first came to Erskine to put on their charade, they made attempts to target myself as the only person of colour. And they did it very, very subtly and very carefully in some of the material that they were putting out in the locality to local constituents. I must thank them, though, because they put my contact details on there, and it was a good way to get some leafleting done. I'll tell you, the only contact I got from the people of Erskine was thanking me for making my view very clear on the matter. And the same with our SNP colleagues, Councillor Ian Nicholson, for MSP Natalie Dawn, and for our MP Gavin Newlands. Those were the names that were on that leaflet. It was our faces that were on that leaflet, and because we were very strong and resolute as local SNP representatives, exactly what our view was, which is, see ya. I could say it in other ways, but, you know. The work that has been done is phenomenal. Faith groups, community groups in particular, I will be slightly biased. I'm the chairperson for an organisation called Erskine Arts, who have been helping working with these individuals. I know it's flashing, I promise I will just be 2 more moments. And I want to thank those local organisations who are doing so much work to be outward-facing and receiving, and let's continue to do that good work, because every single one of us is activists. That is how we flood them out, that far-right, fearing narrative that they feed on the vulnerability of people in our community. We will not accept that, and we will continue to fight it until we have our own independence to set the agenda and tone. Please support this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Michelle was our final speaker on Resolution 21. I have no cards in seeking to speak against. Can I therefore take it that Resolution 21 is agreed by acclaim?